Mike?
I like that. Nice to see you again.
Mike, you started from twice Yes. I think it's good enough for you, Mike. Okay. I'm ready to go in the presentation whenever you're ready to write. All right.
I need to. Is my time running? All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me back. Secondly, when I got the call, Ms. Ramsey telling me about the process for tonight, we get to do a presentation. Two things immediately jumped to my head. First one was, I'm so glad I don't have to handwrite another letter to parents. And the second one is, you know, what am I going to do this presentation on? I could do it on year-round school. I know that's a very hot topic, one-to-one technology. You know, the budget, things of that nature. And what I decided to do the presentation on, my presentation, was what I thought the most important quality of a superintendent is. And in doing this presentation, I really have two goals tonight. One is obviously to get across to everybody what I feel is the most important quality, but also to maybe give the board a little insight to some of my personality, some of my traits that might not come through in the interview process. Up on the screen, what you'll see is what hopefully everyone knows, and that's the mission of the Algonac Schools. Every decision for a superintendent needs to revolve around this mission. Big or small, makes no difference. Every decision superintendent makes, every decision the board makes, needs to take the mission into account. One of the things that you might not get from an interview process is I'm a very competitive person, very competitive. I'm strategic, I hate to lose, and I never ever give up. In looking at this list of challenges, or what I put, or opportunities, what you'll see there is a list of things that, if you've been in education for any time whatsoever, you know that we've had a few things thrown at us. In a lot of ways, we've been beat up. We've been, kicked around. We've been the whipping post for a lot of things coming down from the state. You know, anything that you can think of, it's been blamed on schools. Okay, somehow I know the amount of snow we got this winter has something to do with the school district. Okay, being a competitive person, I look at these challenges more as opportunities. Opportunities to defeat is not the right word, but to gather people together, meet these challenges, come up with a solution, and move forward. You look at this list, you know, decline enrollment, that's something that a lot of us are dealing with. Implementing the Common Core, the increased rigor, increased expectations for our teachers. We're asking them to do more and more and more, increased workload, new evaluation tool coming down the pipe, 25% on student growth, soon it's going to be 50% on student growth, budget cuts, on and on and on. All these things I look at, because I'm a competitive person, as an opportunity to grow and to succeed. And how we do that, and the most important quality I believe for your next superintendent, is through leadership. I'm a math guy. I firmly believe anyone can cut a budget. Anybody can. That's easy. You just come in, teacher, gone, program gone, done. Okay? But obviously, if we revert back to that first slide, okay, our mission is, what's best for kids. Okay, it takes a leader to find a way to explain the situation, bring everybody in, so that they understand what the situation is. And then as a group, you come up with the best route to take. Okay, it is extremely important that we have everybody on board when you make decisions like that. A leader is able to do this by keeping everyone focused on the mission. Okay, and that's key. Like I said, anyone can come in and just cut. But if you want what's best for the kids, you have to take everything into consideration. Anyone can increase the rigor. We just keep adding on to what we're expecting the teachers to do. Okay? It takes a leader to keep everyone upbeat and focused. Okay? And understand that our main task is student achievement. Every morning when I go in, I had this sign, sign above my computer. I look at it every single morning. And what the sign says is the saying down the bottom is that education today is like wrestling a gorilla. Okay? You don't quit when you get tired. You quit when the gorilla gets tired. Okay? And I truly believe that every single day. That's my mindset when I go into work. Anyone can implement a new evaluation tool. I know a lot of staff are very concerned about the new evaluation tool, if the Congress ever decides what it's going to be. Because they think of it for what it's not supposed to be. The new evaluation tool is a means for creating a professional dialogue between the administrator, between staff, so we can improve. You want to create an atmosphere where teachers can expand their boundaries, can try new things, and not worry about an administrator sitting in the back of the room, oh, that didn't work, and marking people down. Okay? That is the whole key to any evaluation system, that they know, that we know, that we're in this together, and our main goal is back to our mission. And how do we do that? Well, we open up, we try new things, we expand our boundaries, and we're not afraid to fail. Anyone can implement a new state assessment. Again, if they ever decide on a Smarter Balance or ACT Aspire, it really doesn't make a difference. And this goes for any assessment. When we give an assessment, common assessment, NWEA, STAR, Smarter Balance, ACT, the key is that we focus on doing our best, okay, and then using that data to improve what we're doing. That's the key. And it takes a leader to make sure that that data is available for people and we can simplify things so that it's usable information. Anyone can implement the one-on-one technology program. All you gotta do is just buy iPads, okay? I'm not sure how much PD has been done, but I can guarantee you more PD needs to be done. And next year, more PD needs to be done, okay? It takes a leader to provide that PD, to model 21st century learning techniques, and create an atmosphere to use the tools to accomplish our goals or our mission. I have not heard this from Algonac, but I've heard it from other schools that have done the one-to-one, and basically it's a $700 paper and pencil. What good does that do? Okay, we have to, now that we have the tools, okay, we have to provide the staff with a PD to accomplish our mission. Use the tools to develop the higher order thinking, creating, synthesizing, analyzing, evaluating, so we're making problem solvers, independent thinkers. That is our goal with this new technology. That's our goal even without the new technology. Anyone can apply this school code of conduct, but it takes a leader to set a tone of acceptable behavior, create an anti-bullying atmosphere where every student has the right to feel safe, and students show school and community pride. Parents and community want three things out of our schools. Okay, and they're pretty simple. They want to know their kids are going to be safe. They want to know that we're, learning them, student achievement-wise. And they want to know that we're fiscally responsible. Those three things, probably in that order. Okay? And it takes a leader to develop that culture. Okay? And improve on the culture that's already here. How is this accomplished? Well, you have to build trust. You have to be available and approachable. You have to be sincere. You have to listen. You have to become part of the community. And that means more than just wearing a blue suit and a yellow tie. You have to be at school and community events. You have to create a team atmosphere. Team atmosphere. You have to lead by example. You have to have a positive attitude. You have to build relationships. You have to communicate with all school groups. You have to be transparent. Have a strong sense of character. Your passion and energy for a true leader will become contagious. And never forget that regardless of the issue, the focus is always, always, always on the kids. I truly believe Algonite Schools has all the pieces in place to be not only a leader in the area, but in the state. I truly believe that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. All it's going to take is the right leader to put everything together. And then another saying I have, if you're not the lead dog, your view never changes. With that said, obviously we need leadership. I know in my position, I don't want to compare what I'm doing with Marysville. I don't want to compare what I'm doing with Croswell. I don't want to compare what I'm doing with anybody. I want them to compare themselves with me. And when I say me, what I'm talking about is Algonite. Okay, we shouldn't always think about the other districts around us and what they're doing and compare ourselves to them. We should put ourselves in a position where they are comparing themselves to us. That's what a good leader will do for us. Where's my timer?
Well, that's already.
Any questions? All right. Well, if we have is my timer even here? I can keep going. It's not good. I have I don't know if this will come up or not. I got one more thing for us to do real quick before he comes in and yells at me for taking too long. And I think that's it right there, but I can't see it. I don't know if you've ever used this before, but this is called Poll Anywhere. And I need everyone to get out their cell phone. Cell phone. Poor guys, can't see the screen.
We have one right
Oh,
here.
okay, good. So in the, who you're texting to, type in 37607. And what that says, if you think is leadership an important quality for a superintendent to have, if you think yes, the increased expectations for staff, students, decline in resources, and at times a disconnect with our community, we need a strong leader, then you type in 65157. If you think no, a trained monkey can do that job, then you type in 65415. And so far,
That's that one. 37606, 37606.
Better be my.
And then down where you do your text, this is it. Oh, it's a message. Did you do a message? Get out. It's gotta be this.
Oh, no.
What is? The message. And then you take in 37607.
I don't think I should read that with a GM phone.
So, question number one. Question number one is, how do you determine when a certain issue requires your personal attention or it should be delegated?
I'm delegating probably is not the term I would use. Chain of command is the term that I would feel more comfortable in using. I know that when there's a situation that needs attention, I would always ask whatever person has the issue, have you talked to the teacher yet? Have you talked to the assistant principal? Have you talked to the principal? Now, with that said, at times, you can read their body language and say, I'm not going to send that person to go talk to that teacher right now. And then I would intervene and I would take it from there, because it's just the recipe for disaster. But more times than not, following the chain of command is the proper way to go, because I know that if someone has an issue with me, I would be disappointed if they ran right to the board without giving me a chance to either explain myself farther or, 95 times out of 100, it's a communication mix-up is causing the issue. So to be able to explain yourself and fix things, but again, a lot depends on the severity of the issue, to whether.
How do you determine that? How do you determine whether it's a me thing or I need to, somebody skips by the teacher and the assistant principal and whoever, and they come to you with an issue, and you say, I need to give this to a teacher or to an assistant principal or a principal, or you know what, this is something I'm going to handle and I'm going to do. How do you determine? How is it that you determine that?
There's not an exact answer to that. What I would do is I would, and actually I'm very good at this, I would sit and listen. I would let them vent their problem. I would make sure that they felt like they're being heard, that I gave time for them. And I, again, depending on the issue, depending on their body language, depending on what they say, have you talked to the teacher about this yet? And if they're vehement about, that's I'm not, I'll talk to the teacher. I will work this out. And then when you do that, then you make sure that you give them a timeline of when you'll get back to them, you follow up. You make sure that they understand that their issue is important to you.
Mike, can you give us an example of the last 5 years' most innovative initiative that you've taken, how that developed, how you implemented it?
I would say that the most innovative, and we've done a lot of things with innovations. I would say recently, we're part of the Field of the Future, just like Alpine is. We were experimenting with blended classes, which I think has got all kinds of potential. We do not have one-to-one, I think I mentioned that last time I was here, but we have adopted a policy for personal electronic devices where we allow kids to bring in their smartphones, their notes, their iPads to use in the class. We are on track with our teachers using Edmodo more often than not, and that's not the right way to say it. More of my staff is using Edmodo than is not using Edmodo. That's catching on as far as the student platform for doing assignments. I mean, it has really been an interesting process watching how this technology's taken off. And I have a handful of staff that are doing the blended classes, that are just doing an outstanding job with outstanding. So I would say that's probably in the last 5 years, most innovative thing we've done. And we're doing that, the PEDs, personal electronic devices, we're piloting that for the district. But,
Were those initiatives more of a team approach, or were those your ideas that came forward of what to do and how to do it?
it was a team approach with the blended classes. Team approach being, you're still the salesman, you're still the leader of the building, you still put out there, these are the benefits for our kids. This is the world that they are entering. You know, when they get to high school, when they get to college, when they get careers past high school, you know, they're gonna have to live in this world of technology. The odds are they're gonna take an online class. You know, they're gonna take a flipped class, a blended class. Let's give them the experience right now. And I had, you know, a handful of staff that was willing to try. They tried, and now I have more staff wanting to give it a go, you know, and they're experimenting with it. I really like the direction it's going.
Mike, I have a few questions, so I'm gonna go through all of them, and then if you need me to go back.
I'm sure I will.
That's fine. How do you assess and measure teacher performance? Describe a great teacher and a quality classroom in your eyes. How will you handle teachers that do not meet this standard? And what is the role of the building administrator in the assessment?
Okay. Question number one, how do I
Assess and measure teacher performance.
I assess and measure it with a variety of ways. I do a number of quick walkthroughs to get a feel for what's going on in the classroom. Plus, that allows the kids to see me also, so it's really a double-edged sword. And when you're in the classroom, you're obviously looking for classroom management. You're looking for what's going on in the classroom. You're looking to see if the kids are involved in the lesson. You're looking to see if the teacher has stated the objective she has for that lesson. If the kids know what that objective is, if she goes back and restates what that objective is. You want to make sure all the kids are involved. You want to see what transitions are like. You want to see if kids, you know, are working in groups together. You want to see if there's any higher thinking skills being developed. You know, how is that going? You want to see how they assess what they're teaching. And once they assess it, what they do with what they find out. You know, how they reteach. That's how I know how the staff members do. Our evaluation form is much like LMAX. It's the rubric type that, you know, it's basically a Danielson type model. So for the formal evaluation, we do that, but we have many conversations leading up to the formal evaluation before we get to that point. You know, you know, what's going on in the classroom, what am I seeing, you know, how, you know, what are you thinking there, and things of that nature.
Okay, now tell me, describe a great teacher and a quality classroom.
A great teacher and quality classroom is when you walk in, you know it. Because the kids are all on task, they're all involved in the lesson. She is differentiating, differentiating that, I mean, kids are all actively involved. I see you saying the same thing over and over, but, you know, classroom management, there's not an issue. She's built relationships with she or he has built relationships with her students. It's, you know, the classroom is decorated in a way that's educationally pleasing. You know, it's the chairs are set up, desks are set up where it promotes cooperative learning, where you're not just in rows where someone's up the front lecturing. You know, there's a number of activities going on.
And then how do you handle these teachers that aren't meeting that standard?
You handle it a number of ways. One is you have very good discussions with them, and what I mean by that is that's where the making sure you build a atmosphere of trust and a culture of professional learning that you can have talk to. Make that lesson win. But I saw a couple of kids that really weren't on task. Okay? When you assess that lesson, what did you find out? Did everybody get it? Some not? Well, what are you gonna do with the ones that didn't get it? You know what? Mrs. Hannon, right across the hall, is teaching the same thing. Are you talking to her about what she's doing? Because her class, you know, boom, boom, boom. And this unit, she's got down. You know, touch base with her. You know, let's talk again. Or we'll get a sub for you, and you can go in that classroom and sit and observe. There's, when you approach it from a non-threatening point of view, it's been my experience that teachers are very receptive to ideas, to ways to improve. You know, the good teachers always want to improve, always.
And then lastly, what is the role of the building administrator in this assessment?
So you have to be the instructional leader. I mean, you're setting the tone, you are talking to people, you're being seen, you need to have their respect. You're giving them new ideas, that's where the PD comes in. We try, matter of fact, we are getting away from, and I'm not sure my staff realizes it yet, but we're getting away from our staff meetings. And we're using that staff meeting time to share ideas. You know, either classroom management or how you're using technology or what you're doing with different lessons, and we'll either share it together or we'll let them break up into core area groups. So, you know, it's, you know, I guess that's, you need to be the instructional leader in the building. And build a rapport with people, build a relationship with people where you can have those discussions.
Mike, given the current economic conditions, what percent of total revenue do you think the district should hold in its fund balance?
What a very minimum, you need to have somewhere just south of 5%, so you can have to charge a borrowing fee when you need to make payroll or something. I would think 10% is an excellent number to shoot for. I know Algonac was well over 10, quite a while, you know, and then things happen. I think our goal is to make sure that we have enough in our fund balance that we do not have to pay interest to borrow money to pay our summer payroll. But that's kind of close. You know, I hate to set the bar at the very minimum. Because things happen.
That's a two-part question, actually. And at what point
I
do you
appreciate you not asking them both at the same time.
And at what point do you say this is enough of a rainy day fund? We need to invest everything we have in improving achievement and the educational experience.
I'm not sure that you use that train of thought to look what, if we can only get up to 15%, then we can really put that money into interventions or, you know, summer programs. I think that's the wrong way to think about it. I think what you do is you decide what programs are necessary and then you find a way to do it. You don't let the money dictate the programs. you make the program dictate the money.
Mike, let's assume for a moment, since you're not a superintendent, you don't have the experience, but the fact you are a superintendent, try to have that head on. And mine's a three-part question. What specific data resources would you use to make decisions regarding finance? And then secondly, curriculum. And then lastly, and I repeat these, when you would sit down to draw up a budget, what information would you need to have on the table in front of you?
Well, the first, to answer your question, the information I would need to make, or data I would need for the budget, is that the first question? I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, for finance, yes.
For
If
finance.
you were putting together a budget.
Well, you would need, you would need to know your student count. You would need to know what the governor is giving you for, per student. You would need to know what is coming in as far as your categoricals. You would need to know, your best practices, if you're gonna qualify for that. You would need to know if your performance-based, money, if we're gonna see any of that. You're gonna need as much data as possible, especially when money is tight. You know, a few years ago, when decline enrollment wasn't an issue, before proposal A, you know, we get that data, but we'll pretty much do whatever we want, because we all have all kinds of money. Okay, but right now, with the financial situation we're in, I think it's imperative you get as much data as possible. You know, how many schools of choice kids do we have? How many schools of choice kids are we losing? You know, what are our kindergarten roundup numbers? How does that look? What's our graduating class? How does that look? You know, so you need to answer your question, and I'm not sure it's the answer you want, but you need just as much data as possible, and from as many sources as you can get.
And then what about curriculum?
Curriculum, I think the data you need obviously are from the assessments. How are we doing? You look at the standardized tests, the ACT scores, Explore, you know, MEET. You look at the assessments that the school district has bought. You look at the DIBELS. You're looking for gaps. You're looking for where are we not succeeding? Where are our kids not up to par? Okay, and with that, when I say up to par, you know, we can compare ourselves to the state. You know, well, the state's got Detroit, it's got Flint, it's got Pontiac. You know, I don't think that's a real good measurement still. We can compare ourselves to the county, that's a little bit better. I like to compare ourselves with some of the more affluent districts, the Novi's, you know, some of the Grand Rapids schools. You know, how are we doing compared to them? Because that really, our kids are gonna be competing against those kids when it comes to college, when it comes to careers, when it comes to jobs. And, you know, they're gonna be competing worldwide. So we need to look at every part of data we can when we're assessing our curriculum. A little bit of a side note, I think the Common Core is a step in the right direction. Common Core, even though it's only ELA and math right now, has really raised the bar with its rigor and what it's doing as far as developing higher order thinking skills. I'm very pleased on how long will that take for us to see some results from that? Well, it might be a few years. Okay, now my back is obviously to the audience behind me. I need somebody to give me a heads up. My wife teaches at K1. She's teaching first grade right now. We just had this discussion. Common Core, they are working with unknowns. They're doing algebra in first grade. The husband and me, I'm giving her a hug. Oh, sweetie, I know it's tough. Good job. The administrator and me said, that is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. She's pulling out her hair. okay? But the kids, and she'll tell you, the kids are doing an incredible job with the amount of rigor that the Common Core is forcing these kids to do. It's difficult, okay? But that's the type of data I think we need to see, you know, how are they doing? If we keep raising the bar, you know, and they're reaching that, awesome. If they're not quite reaching it, all right, what can we do to bring those up that aren't reaching it? What do we do as far as interventions and things of that nature?
Okay, and then lastly, you've already answered this in part. When you do draw up a budget, what information would you need to have, sitting before you on a table?
In drawing up a budget, I think that what you need to do is to be very strategic. I think that, doing a one-year budget, I think is very short-sighted. I think you need to look down the road when you're making a budget. I think you need, like I said, all the information possible. We're at a point, we being all schools and with declining enrollment, that there's some very difficult decisions that are gonna have to be made. So in doing a budget, it's not just numbers. You know, how much money's coming in, but you have to look at class sizes. You have to look at, you know, class sizes, staffing to enrollment. You have to look at, you know, all those variables and how they factor in. You know, if we, move fifth grade to the middle school, how does that affect us budget-wise? If we end up, down the road having to close an elementary school, how does that affect us budget-wise? You know, how many people are retiring this year? Okay, well, there's a chance for us to recoup some money. You know, how can we be more efficient? How can we distribute some of the responsibilities more? And what kind of money will that save us? You know, all those things need to be taken into consideration when you work on the budget. You can't just be looking at money.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mike, you'll like this, it's only a two-parter.
Okay.
What's the relationship between a school board and the superintendent? What should it look like?
Well, I think that when you talk about school boards, I think a school board needs to be very open and honest with the superintendent and vice versa. I think that the relationship needs to be very professional. We need to work together as a team. It's definitely a team, even though, you know, obviously I work for you. I think that the relationship needs to be one that we need to sometimes agree to disagree. You know, and if we disagree on something, but the majority decides that's the way we're gonna go, then that's the flag we carry. We're in this together. That we don't have members of our team out there sabotaging the decisions the board made just because it didn't come out the way that one person or two people thought it should be.
Okay, well, how would you describe those same characteristics have been evident in your present role with your position that you have now? And what role do you think the Board of Education plays in this relationship?
You want me to explain my current board to you and?
Well, the characteristics that you alluded to just a few minutes ago on being the team and what have you, how have you found that to be in your district?
I have found, and I won't say in my district,
Okay.
but I have found that when boards don't work together, it is a long, long road. I mean, it it really affects every part of our job. It affects the mission. You know, when you have board members that have got an agenda that don't work as a team, it's frustrating, very frustrating.
All right, I have a one-part question. Could you take a minute to describe for us what you see as the classroom of the future?
The classroom of the future is, we have Chuck in California. Actually, I see the classroom in the future. That's an intriguing question. I see more and more of the blended and flipped classes going on. I see more and more technology being, the information is so easy to get that the classroom of the future is going to be wherever the student decides to sit down. You know, it could be at home, and it's where the teacher decides to sit down. Our teachers right now doing the blended classes, you talk to them, they're answering emails, they're answering, we use Edmodo as our platform, they're answering questions at Edmodo 9, 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, they'll hear a ding on the computer, go and answer a question for somebody. I mean, it is really slick, the exchange of information. I see, just the boundaries keep expanding for us. It's very, very exciting, very exciting.
Okay, we talked about declining enrollment earlier. How do we remain attractive and competitive when enrollment drives?
I think we do a much better job of marketing ourselves. In preparing for this, I was looking through my notes and my wife Karen was, talking to me about certain things. I said, I'm really excited about this IB program. She said, IB? What's IB? Oh, it's an international baccalaureate. And her eyes just looked, they have that? They have that at the elementary school? I said, no, sweetie, I don't think they have it at the elementary school. I knew they didn't at the elementary school. But there's a great example. She had no idea that was here. I think that we do a better job of marketing ourselves in the programs we have. I think that we need to raise our scores. I think our scores are good. I think they can be better. And I think it takes a team effort to raise our scores. Because what will a family look for that's looking to move into the district? They want to know what are your ACT scores? Okay, what's your composite? How's the high school doing? That sort of thing. So I think that needs to be, a concerted focus that we have as a district. Okay, and I think if you really want to take this down the road, I think where this starts is we need to hammer the Great Start Readiness Program. In talking to a few teachers from Algonac just recently, I'm very impressed with that program. But my understanding is there's slots that are available for families that aren't taken advantage of. We need to get those kids involved in that program. We need to, get them into a structured, research-based curriculum for that age kid and start that cognitive development going. And once we start that, then it just snowballs. And we'll see benefits of that down the road.
Mike, can you describe your management style? Can you give us some examples of how that paid off for you and perhaps didn't pay off for you?
I think that my management style is one of being a servant leader. I'm a
team player. I hope that you picked up on, as I said it over and over, I'm very approachable. I have a very relaxed atmosphere, which has helped me out tremendously in dealing with not only staff, but dealing with parents and dealing with kids. But, you know, at times, I think that a good leader, a great leader, is not just one type of leader. I mean, at times, when a decision has to be made, when things are not going the way you want, you need to make sure that they understand, you know, we're not doing that. You know, this is the way we're gonna do it. You know, so those kind of conversations happen. But so far, really, I've been able to adapt to the situation